Good morning, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Stoke Meter. And the only word that I can think of right now is I'm humbled to have our next guest on the show, Jason Brown. Jason Brown is one of the coolest people you could ever meet. And when we talk about him a little bit more, you'll see why. He is the founder of First Fruits Farm Ministry. You're wondering, what in the world is the First Fruits Farm Ministry? The other thing that you have to know about Jason is that he was also in the NFL. Matter of fact, not just in the NFL, but he was actually, you were the highest paid center ever in the NFL up to 2009, if I recall, right? And absolutely amazing. And then you gave it all up because you felt inspired to start a farm to help other people. Is that about the gist of it?
Yes, in a nutshell, leading up to it, but there's so many twists and turns along the way. And of course, being a farmer, it's a story of faith.
Oh, yeah. There is no doubt about it. And I couldn't help but be inspired by all of the things that led up to that made you who you are as an individual, but then living up to the calling. It blows my mind, man. But again, thank you for being on the show. I know that was a long introduction, but let's just jump right into it if that's okay. So you're in the NFL. You're in North Carolina in college, and it's everyone's dream. I have a good buddy who is an agent to a number of folks in the NFL, and I know it's a dream for everyone to get into, right? And I'm just wondering, what was it like as you prepared for the NFL? You got there. What was that journey like? Especially studying your family, really strong family unit, the whole bit. But what was that like to get to the NFL?
So yeah, getting there is one thing, and then staying there is another. But it's of course incredibly hard work, sacrifice, dedication. But because you're competing at the highest level in the world. Okay, it's one of those things where yes, it's you not only have to be an elite athlete, but you also have to be on your A game literally every single day, because they usually say the NFL stands for not for long, because every single year the NCAA college system is producing thousands of young talented athletes that want to then come and take your job.
Yeah. The grind. I mean, just listening to the grind, listening to everything that you're doing, from a dietary, from weights, from conditioning, and oh my goodness, man, I can't even imagine it. There's another thing that I had read though, that you as the money came, started living large, just like anyone will, right? Started living large, but there was a point that you started feeling, this isn't me. this isn't me. And I'm wondering if you wouldn't mind delving into that, of what made you realize, gosh, this has been great. I've got my goal, but this isn't me, man.
So I started out, from humble beginnings, but then you always say that, okay, yeah, when you make it to the big leagues, it's kind of like a cliche. All right, you're going to be the same person, right? You're not going to forget about who you were and where you came from. And to a point there, I started really, enjoying that lifestyle to the fullest. Okay, right. And just things that were outside of my character, things that I would have never done. But it's those things that from a kid, you grow up watching MTV Cribs, and you're like, wow, that would be cool, right? And just, just started doing all of this crazy, stupid stuff. All right. Like I did buy MTV Crib style, mansion. It was 12,000 square feet. It was ridiculous. And then you start to believe the lies, that people say that, oh, you're such a great person, you're doing this, and you have to be very careful because your flesh and your pride, gets in the way. And I was really getting far away from my upbringing, faith and family, growing up in the church, understanding and realizing the importance of family. And I really lost my path a little bit.
Man, what I just wonder what brought you back to realization that brought you back to the your foundation. Lack of a better question, awful question, but yeah, what brought you back to that foundation?
So one of my biggest wake up calls is my older brother, whom 7 years older than me. I love more so than anything in the world, Lunsford Bernard Brown II. And unfortunately, in the middle of my college career, he was slain in service, serving our country over in Iraq and Afghanistan. And so that rocked me to my core when I was 20 years old. And honestly, it pulled the rug from underneath me, because if someone that you love can be taken from you just like that, then I was like, man, what's the point of any of this? All right. Like what's not? And so actually I thought about quitting football, and I thought about dropping out of school, and just, man, because I went to a very deep, dark place of depression. All right. Just, losing my older brother. But one thing that kept me going was knowing how much he cared about my success. And he was just always pouring encouragement and wisdom into me, and saying, hey, Jason, look, I don't want you to make the same mistakes that I did, in school. Look, you need to be on the AB honor roll. You need to be an honor student. You're going to be a better man than me. Look, you're going to do so much. And literally, like, he was a second father figure to me, right? And you know what I said? What pulled me out of that ditch was knowing that I can honor his memory and I can honor his legacy by the life that I live. And so he was slain by, it was a mortar explosion, and a mortar came down and hit their tent. They were stationed outside the prison outside of Abu Ghraib, and the shrapnel pierced his dog tags, all right there where his heart was. And his wife, Cherie, gave me not the one that was most intact. She gave me the dog tag that was the worst, the one where a piece of shrapnel pierced all the way through it, and it was jagged and pointy edged on one side. And let me tell you what I did for the rest of my college career at 20 years old, and then going into my NFL football career. I would wear his dog tag every single day, and I never took it off. And I would wear it jagged and pointy edged, turn inside, so that when I put on my tight shoulder pads and I put on my tight jersey, I could feel it literally pricking a hole, like right there where my heart was. And guess what? That was my constant reminder that I have no right to throw a pity party, okay? I have no right to complain about anything. I have no right to even quit, okay? And so when I went out there to practice, when I went out there during the games, that's what I took with me. I took my brother, literally, I took his dog tag with me, and that is what gave me inspiration and motivation to get out there and whoop some tail. All right. The football field. But most people, nobody knew that source of inspiration and motivation actually came from a dark place. Okay. But because I was grieving, all right, and I was hurting, and well, thankfully, football gives you an outlet to go beat up on people, okay? and so it propelled me, to an awesome career. Drafted by the Baltimore Ravens in the 4th round, played there for 4 years, and then in free agency, which you were talking about, my contract, I signed the highest earning contract for a center at the time with the St. Louis Rams. And so that's pretty awesome. So for my position, I was valued like the highest, rated player in the National Football League. But guess what? My wake-up call is now I'm enjoying life. I'm enjoying it to the fullest. Okay. I have that stupid mansion. I have all of these classic cars. I'm one of the cool kids. Okay. And I wake up one morning and walk into my bathroom, which is, like literally the size of like my bedroom right now, just huge. And I look in the mirror and I wipe the crust from my eyes, and I didn't like what I saw. And I should have been happy for myself because it was my birthday. I had turned 27 years old, okay? But guess what? It was the same age that Lunsford was when he was slain in service. And so 7 years had passed from when I was a junior in college, and now I'm at the highest heights of my NFL football career. 7 years had passed, and I began to measure up everything that I had accomplished in my life over 27 years and everything Lunsford had accomplished in his life. And guess what? Dude, there was no comparison. He wore a size 14 shoe. I wear a size 16 shoe. But guess what? Hey, I wasn't worthy of wearing his shoes, nor could I even think about walking a mile in his shoes. Because, to keep things in perspective, look, I'm an athlete. I'm playing a sport. I'm playing football, right? And at no time am I out there on the football field and have to worry about bullets dodging past my head, or a mortar explosion, or shedding my own blood. All right. So let's just keep things in perspective. And so the kicker is that a lot of people say that Lunsford and I look alike, especially when we smile. And I literally saw his reflection look right back at me in the mirror, and he shamed the mess out of me. Okay. like big brother came back from the grave to literally prick me in the heart one more time. And he said, Jason, what are you doing with your life that's so great? Like, Jason, what are you doing with your life that's so special? Because I was living a life of entertainment and sports, and he had lived a life of service. And 27 is not that old, not that long of a life. But guess what? It's not about the quantity, but the quality and the impact and the difference that he made. And from that point forward, I said, I got to make a change. And now also, even though it was through my brother, that was also like one of my coming to Jesus moments, right? Where God literally used my own life experiences and circumstances to really, really wake me up and give me a wake-up call. All right. And so I really started looking much more towards service and sacrifice after that.
Well, what I think is interesting is, this isn't an uncommon story up to this, well, except for your brother. I want to pay homage to him, but the story of people making it to the highest level, whether it's the NFL or the NBA, and then realizing that they want to give back and they want to provide service. There's a lot of that you hear that story quite a bit. And a lot of them will kind of pivot a little bit and maybe do some community service, and they'll start donating to, to different causes and that type of stuff. Your story is where it takes a hard right turn. I mean, like how did kind of guide us through that part of the story now? Because we're kind of to a point where you had a decision to make. You're looking in the mirror, and you could have just as easily kept moving forward in the NFL, and you could have still provided with the resources that you had. You could have fulfilled that service calling, I think, very easily and still led a very comfortable life. You could have downsized that mansion. You could have, done that type of stuff and be true to yourself. How did you end up doing what you're doing?
So, all right. So, I'm a control freak. All right. Just a control freak. And one thing is that I always, you learned how to, be obedient and submit and submit myself to my coaches. All right. My coach tells me to do something, I'm gonna go out and do it. All right. But when it came to my faith and my walk with Christ, look, loving thy neighbor, all right, like you love yourself, and you know what, going out of your way to show compassion towards strangers and people. And so I was like, look, I don't have any time for that. But guess what? When the humility stepped in, and I told my wife, I said, look, we've come this far, and we've really gotten away from what's important, faith and family. And I told her, I said, look, never again are we going to make decisions for our family based on the almighty dollar. I said, we have to do what's best for faith and our family, and we have to trust God, whatever that means. We have to trust God. All right. And so I stepped out on a ledge here, and it's a dangerous question. All right. A very dangerous question. And it's that ultimate, like, Jesus take the wheel moment that nobody wants to let go of that full control. But here's what I said. I said, all right, God, with everything that you've given me, with all of the gifts, the talents, the blessings, the resources, with everything that you've given me, what would you have me to do more so than anything else to make a difference in the world that we live in today, to make an impact, to honor you, and also to show love towards our neighbors and build up our communities. And guess what? The same story that the Paul Harvey stories. So God made a farmer. That was my pivot point. All right, God made a farmer out of me. Okay, and that was the answer. He said, I want you to take care of my sheep. I want you to feed my people, and not just like a regular church pastor, like beating somebody across the head with the Bible and having a good sermon, but literally being the hands and the feet and making a difference. Okay. And so I told my mother, I said, Mom, I'm going to retire from football and I'm going into full-time ministry. And she was like, what? Like, so are you going to come back home and start a church? I said, no. I said, of course not. All right. Like, I scoffed at that. I said, there's like way too many churches out here that aren't doing it right. Okay. I said, if anything, it's going to be a church without walls, and like, we're going to get out there. We're just going to make a difference. Okay. Yeah. And so every kid grows up in school, and we're told that the three biggest, constant, needs in life that someone needs is food, clothing, and shelter. But you know what? If you live in Southern California or Miami, Florida, guess what? You can get away without having too many clothes. And you might not, you can get away with possibly staying outside for a couple of days. But one thing that everybody on this earth is going to need is everybody's going to be hungry. Yeah. Okay. Everybody needs food, and not just any food, but of course, good food. quality food. And so here's what I still did selfishly. Okay, so I did something selfishly, all right? I got to admit, when God told me, he was showing me about, food insecurity and hunger and all. So I got in my truck, I ran down to Sam's Club, and I bought a whole bunch of non-perishable food items and canned goods, brought them back to my house and stocked up our pantry. And I was like, okay, all right, we're prepared for the zombie apocalypse, right? And came down on me so hard. He said, look, Jason, I haven't been blessing you all this time for my blessings to stop at you. I've been blessing you so that my blessings flow through you.
Oh, man. Wow.
And so, like, okay, so you don't want me to go out and buy food or purchase food. Like, this is not about money. You actually want me to do it. Like, so the same way that in the trenches, on the football field in NFL, God wanted me on the trenches, on the farm field, okay, like growing fruits and vegetables. And here's my last reservation. I was like, but because I put myself out there, all right, and I asked the question, I said, I'll do whatever you want me to do. But then it became so overwhelming because I said, hold on a second, like, this isn't what I went to college for. Like, I don't know anything about agriculture or farming. And so I started making a few excuses. But guess what, guys, like, agriculture has been around for thousands of years. Okay. It's so simple. A caveman can do it. All right. Now, I will tell you this. All right. I've made more mistakes, and I've had more failures than I can shake a stick at. And so there's been a lot of trial and error learning. I've stayed up watching countless YouTube videos until night, 1 o'clock in the morning. And then our local ag extension agents pulled me aside and said, hey, don't you know that there's people out here that can help you? Like, that our job is to help local farmers. And I'm like, really? Like, you are? And I'm like, and so one area in my pride that I really had to set aside was thinking that I was big enough and strong enough to do it all by myself. And guess what? That's not going to work. Like you have to rely on your farming friends, so many resources, our ag extension agents. You got to set your pride aside, but because guess what? Nature will humble you really quick.
Yes, it will.
And so with my ego, here's my ego. Okay, guys. My wife and I, we said, okay, our marriage was our first covenant. So whatever land we purchase, we're going to name it First Fruits Farm, and we're going to grow food, all right, to feed the needy. And we're going to give the first fruits of whatever is grown from the land. And here's what I'm thinking. Okay, all right, I'm farming for Jesus. Okay, like, I'm growing vegetables. You know what I mean? And I thought that I was immune and bulletproof. And that's also because our very first harvest, it was a bumper crop, like an outstanding success of sweet potatoes. I'm talking about faith that can move mountains of sweet potatoes. But here's what happened. The very next year, because look, it rains on the just and the unjust. All right. The very next year, we had a drought. All right.
Yeah.
And also, I guess the deer population, that they said, hey guys, there's this dumb football player over here. Okay. And oh, I dropped my phone there. Sorry. And so when I say that there was an army of deer there, like, just to eat and nibble at every single new growth of my vines that came about. And on top of that, these deer are just so trifling that they'll paw up a sweet potato, take a nibble of it, and then say, I'm gonna go dig up another one. And so, all right, so so deer get used to just about anything. So the air cannons, like, don't work, all right? Me being out there, you can get a nuisance permit, but guess what? You're out there to, like, so look, I came up with a genius idea of having a motion detector, all right? A motion detector hooked up to one of those wild, wacky, inflatable, flailing arms. And so every time the motion detector sensed a deer trying to creep through the field, it would, turn on, and that wild, wacky, inflatable, flailing arm man would just arms around. And then I said, guess what? I've got to add some sound to it as well. And so I had a radio out there to just blast music. So that combination with the movement as well as the music, I said, that's surely going to get him. But guess what? Deer can get used to just about anything. And after a month, let me tell you what happened. They would come out there to nibble, and the motion detector would catch them, and the music would start playing. But guess what? Now the deer, they stayed out there eating, but now the deer are dancing to music, like that. Thanks for all the music, that gave us, so we can eat up all of your crops. And so guys, so that second year, it was supposed to have been in excess of 200,000 pounds of sweet potatoes, and we only harvested 30,000 pounds. Okay,
oh, man.
And let me tell you what. I felt like a failure. I felt like God has forsaken me. What's going on here? All right, and then all of the other veteran farmers around me, they're like, "Hey, dude, hey, that's just another year. All right, hey, get your planner back together. Strategize for next year, and to get ready to get back out there." And I'm like, "Really?" They're like, "Yeah." Like, come on now. And so look, the same thing with football. Look, I had some years where we had an awesome winning record. We made it to the playoffs. And then other years, it was horrible. All right. But so some other years, you can count how many games we won on one hand. And when you go out in the public, all of the fans are shaming you, like, come on, you need to do better. And but you know what? I took this to heart even more so than playing football, because you know what? Those fans, those spectators, I'm there to entertain them. All right. And I'm not a robot. We're going to have a bad day every once in a while. But for this, I really took it to heart, because I said, that's going to be, food that we're not going to be able to get to a needy family.
Yeah.
You see?
Yeah, it's different.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I have to ask Jason, first of all, describe the neighborhood you grew up with just real quick. Where'd you grow up?
So it was out in the rural parts a little bit. My parents had invested in 40 acres of land, but it was still not farming. So my father grew a couple of fruit and nut trees. It wasn't until I went to college that he tried to get a few chickens, here and there. And so he was a landscaper by trade. He, did a little bit of gardening here and there, but nothing on the scale of what we're doing on a big farm, right now. The big difference. And
did you own so much as a houseplant yourself growing up? You
Oh
make
yeah.
it sound so easy, like, oh yeah, anybody can grow. A caveman can do it. I'm like, I know better, man.
So now my mother, she has a green thumb. All right. So
Yeah.
she like these vining house plants that are older than I am. All right. Like literally like more than 30 years old. And when you're walking through the house, it's like Little Shop of Horrors where we have a plant over here and a house plant over there, and they're hanging from the ceiling. And then she dares you. She's like, don't step on that vine right there. And I'm like, where? And you look down and like you're accidentally stepping on the vine, and she's like, oh. and so my mother knows how to tend to a garden, okay, and not to overwater, not to underwater. My mother is the only one that can take a poinsettia from Christmas and keep it alive like for a whole year. Okay. And my father, he had a green thumb outside of the house as well. But for me, man, it was just I saw the joys of growing things. Stepping right outside of our house, some of those fruit trees that he had. I saw the miracle of food being grown on trees, and asking my mom for a snack, and she's like, take your tail outside, go get an apple off the tree. And I'm like, really? Yeah. Right. And you know what? It sounds so simple, but yet more people should do it. Like literally every home in America, if you have a small yard or a big yard, everyone should participate in our food system.
Oh, couldn't agree more.
Everyone should be able to realize the fruits of their labor.
Yeah, I'm going to pivot another way here. I want to talk about Tay. Tay is, man, I love Tay. I've only interviewed. I mean, not interview. I've only emailed with her, but you could tell that woman is spunky. I love it, and so accomplished as well. I mean, a dentist from Duke University, for heck's sake, man. Just the smarts and just the class, the whole bit. And looking at what you two have built and the things that you have overcome, just go into that a little bit of what that's meant to you to do all this together, the things that you've been able to overcome and accomplish together, and what that's meant to you.
So guys, most people look at me, big brawny football player, and they give me most of the credit, but they have no idea that little woman, that's my wife, you better watch out, okay? So we have 8 beautiful children now, ages, our oldest is 14 years old. Let me close that. All right. There we go. We're back on. Our oldest is 14 years old, all the way down to 2 years old, and stair step all in between. And look, I tell people, you think I'm the strong one? I didn't birth all those babies, okay? Like she's the strong one, okay? Like she's the glue that's holding it all together. She's the doctor, dentist. People, now that we're on a farm, so she's kept her license. And she still practices 1 to 2 days a week just to keep up with her skills. I mean, that was a tremendous, sacrifice for that. But, people that don't know our background story, they're like, oh yeah, she's just a farm wife. Like, no. Like she's so much more. And now that we have a beautiful barn, a venue, to help us to sustain the farm and our family, and hosting more than 40 weddings a year, which is beautiful, by the way, guys. Visit Amazing Graze, Graze. So it's a play on words there, AmazingGrazeBarn.com. And you can see, man, like it's a just awesome, beautiful venue. And she's helping to, coordinate and run that as well. I'm just the farmer. Okay, I'm just the farmhand. All right, the grunt, the muscle, getting it done like offensive lineman. Right, but she, she plays quarterback. Most times, and taking lead on a lot of things. And so when I wrote my book,
I couldn't hear what you said.
Apologize.
Everybody's listening.
Like, I gotta say, hey, stay out of my conversation, Siri. Okay. So I wrote my book, Centered, which, if I were to tell you all the awesome stories, guys, like, we'd be here for hours. Okay.
Yeah.
But this is my selfish plug. Centered: Trading Your Plans for a Life That Matters. All right, by Jason Brown. And also, if you're not that big of a reader, guess what? They allowed me, okay, which is a really big deal. They allowed me to record the audiobook in my voice.
Oh, yeah. That's awesome.
So, that's pretty awesome. So look, I tell people, I'm like, look, if you're going on a long road trip, man, download the audiobook and play that thing. Or if you want me to read you a bedtime story, got you, okay?
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Centered, and what a great title.
Well, and I love the following phrase: trading your plans for a life that matters. And the reason I brought up Tay, it wasn't that she was a dentist. She had an incredible successful practice. And when you look at what you did, you had an incredible successful career. So when you read that title, Trading Your Plans for a Life That Matters, I don't know if a lot of people understand how big of a sacrifice that was. It was huge. But what I appreciated about reading a lot of both of your stories is that willingness to put it all on the table for that life of purpose has led to some incredible things. I mean, since this has started, I heard that you have donated 2 million pounds of potatoes. 2 million, man.
It's close. Well, not two. It's close. So we're well over 1 million. I say about right now about 1.5 million.
Oh my goodness.
So,
That's amazing. I'm just thinking how many people that is served, and then looking at this, trading everything for that life of purpose. Man, it's unbelievable, and it sounds like it's even strengthened not only you as individuals, but you as a marriage companionship too. I'm wondering if you could delve into that a little bit too.
So when you look, when you start working in something and towards something where you as a couple can come together. All right. So when I was challenged in football, no matter what differences I might have had with some of my teammates, okay, because just to be honest, guess what? You didn't always get along with all your teammates.
Yeah.
But when it was a time when we were playing against a big rival, Pittsburgh Steelers, or we're playing against the New England Patriots, and yeah, everybody hates Tom Brady, okay? So guess what? There is such a big challenge ahead of you that, look, whatever grievances you have, whatever unforgiveness you have, whatever differences, you set that aside and say, hey, look, we got to go out here and we got to whoop some tail. And the only way we're going to win is that we got to be hip to hip. All right. We got to be on the same page. All right. And so it's the same thing within our marriage. Look, we still have our ups and our downs. All right. I still get on her nerves all the time. Okay. Look, I'm going to do something stupid that's just going to upset Tay. Okay. And yeah, she's got her, I've got my pet peeves, and she does silly stuff, but there's no way that we're going to be able to raise 8 children, run an awesome, successful farm ministry and a barn venue and her still go out and practice dentistry once, twice a week. Guess what, man? We got to be on the same page.
Yeah.
Like, here's the crazy thing is that little silly stuff where we would have an argument and we'd be disgruntled with one another and let it fester on for days. Like now, we don't have any time for that. Okay, like, hey, you better forgive one another real quick. Hey, and literally, we try and see how little time can go by before we're like, all right, come here, please. I apologize. Look, you know I'm stupid. Give me a hug and a kiss. Like, let's make up because I need you and you need me, and we're gonna win this thing together. Okay, all right. We're in it to win it. And so I just want to share this one thing right quick. So I dedicated the book centered to my wife, Tay. And it says, my crown and worthy of all my love. Oh, what a blessing you are. Such a fruitful vine, and our children are your vigorous fruits. Our family flourishes because of your faithfulness. More than a helpmate, you are my armor bearer, who oftentimes fearlessly charges into battle before me. Okay? If only the world could see that you are the real hero and I'm only a sidekick. All right.
Nice.
And guess what? Like, that's what I want the world to see. Like, everybody that comes to our farm, they're like, oh, the big former football player, Jason Brown. And I'm like, no, man, like, I'm just a role player. Okay. I'm just the offensive lineman. I've never been a star. Okay. I don't need to be the star. I'm okay with that. Her, Tay, she's the real one. And so, okay, so yes. So everything that she had to give up as well. So of course, when we got married, I promised her everything, that I would be an awesome husband, a good provider. And yes, guess what? We both got very comfortable in that mansion in St. Louis. We both got very comfortable. And so when I asked her to leave that life comfort, okay, and she's like, what do you mean leave? Like, where are we going? I said, well, I had conversations with God and see, we're gonna leave all this behind and move to a farm and we're gonna grow food and work the farm. And she said, manual labor, like work a farm. She said, don't you see these hands of mine that are insured? They are delicate instruments. All right, like these are not hands that are supposed to be, using a garden hoe or a shovel with. Okay, like these are for handling delicate, dental instruments. Okay, and so I was like, man. And so guess what? I didn't argue. I didn't complain. I just prayed. I just prayed that Tay would see the same vision that God had given me. And so I said, God, everything you revealed to me, get her, God. All right. Like, so I put the Holy Spirit on her. And here's what happened. Like 2 weeks later, man, like she was fully on board. And there's been several times where she has challenged me. When I've still lost focus a little bit, she's told me, she says, look, I know we're excited about all the food and produce that we grow and we donate. We have animals that we raise here on the farm as well. It's a big farm. It's awesome, a lot of responsibility. She said, but don't you ever forget that the most important thing growing on First Fruits Farm is our family. The love that we share and our marriage between a husband and wife, and the love that we pour down into our children. That is the most important thing growing on First Fruits Farm. And I'm like, wow, you know what I mean? And so that's staying centered, all right? You know what I mean? Staying focused and keeping the main thing, the main thing. Another awesome story that I love to share And then you got to forgive me. I'm going to have to be stepping away here soon. Farmer Brown's got to work. Okay? But one more awesome story is that Tay challenged me one more time. And that is when we were in the negotiations of trying to acquire First Fruits Farm, right, which is the most beautiful farm in all of North Carolina. I can say that, like, unselfishly, everybody that's come here or seen it, it's truly a special place. Okay, but we couldn't afford it at the time because the previous owners, they had a huge appraisal that was more than twice as much as we could afford. But guess what? We, in faith, I submitted an offer, not an insulting offer, but it was like about a third of their asking price. And they came back and they came down just a little bit off of their really high asking price. And I'm like, okay, like somehow we got to try and meet in the middle. And so I came up a little bit and they came down just a little bit, and we were nowhere. And I told him, I said, if we keep going up like this and they keep coming down like that, I said, there's no way we can meet in the middle. I said, dear, and then we can't afford it. And I didn't want us to go into debt as a family and take out a big mortgage note from the banks. And so I said, we're just going to have to look for land elsewhere. And Tay rose up and said, Jason Brown, this man of God that claims that God called you away from the NFL to farm and feed his people. Where's your faith now, Jason Brown? Huh? Where's your like she called me out, okay? Because guess what? If I'm going to call her away from a lifestyle of comfort and dentistry and being in that nice mansion, then guess what? She's going to challenge me as well. And so guess what? I got teary-eyed and my voice got all high-pitched, and I said, I said, where's my faith? And guys, I took a Sharpie and a big Sharpie, and I wrote on there, final offer. I wrote on there the best that we could do, final offer, and I underlined it twice, and I submitted it in faith. And they came back and said, if you can close in 30 days, the farm is yours.
Wow.
Like, and guess what? And I was the one that was wavering about to lose faith. And guess what? She came right at the right time to just, yes. And so, and one thing I'll share with you guys in closing is that I've retired my brother's dog tag, okay? I no longer need that, that piercing right where my heart is, but because now my inspiration comes from my family, my 8 children, that every single morning, guess what? But before the roosters start crowing, they get up too, okay? And they're like, daddy, like daddy this, daddy that. And that now is my constant reminder, all right? Now that's my inspiration, that's my motivation. And I thank God that, you know what? It doesn't have to come from a dark place anymore. You know what I mean? It's coming from an awesome, beautiful, loving place. All right. And that's what keeps me grounded. That's what keeps me at peace. Yes.
I got to go get your book now, man.
Yeah, exactly. I was doing the same thing.
Unreal.
Creating Your Plans for a Life That Matters.
Yeah.
By Jason Brown with Paul Asay. And also, don't forget that audiobook, guys.
Oh, no doubt about it. Plus, it's backed by Jim Harbaugh, man. All those, you had some really good backing on that. It's so cool.
Okay. All right. So another crazy story before you leave. All right. And I think that was in the book, is that, so I had an opportunity to go back and continue playing football. John Harbaugh, still head coach with the Baltimore Ravens, he and his brother Jim Harbaugh, so Jim Harbaugh wanted me to play out there in San Francisco for the 49ers. John wanted me to play in Baltimore. They wanted me to come and play for the Carolina Panthers as well. And it was the hardest and toughest decision that I've ever had to make in my life. And guess what? I kept them like on the hook for a while because my agent said, look, don't close the door, Jason, just in case you change your mind and want to come back. But I'm like, I can't go back. All right. Like, I can't turn my back on God. All right. And then if I went back, I'd be walking in disobedience. Okay. And so right before the draft, I called up John Harbaugh and gave him a courtesy call. He was like, hey, Jason, like, what's your decision? Like, the draft is coming up and we need to know, like, are you going to come back and be a Raven? And I said, look, coach, I'd love to come back and play for you and be a Raven again. I'd love, man, I was just being honest, to make a whole lot more money, all right?
Yeah.
All to pay me millions of dollars. I said, but coach, God is calling me and my family in a different direction. And I'm afraid that if I come back and play for you, coach, that God would punish me the same way that he punished Jonah. When God sent a mission, to Nineveh. Yeah. And I said, coach, I don't think you would want me on your team under those circumstances. I said, coach, it wasn't just Jonah that was punished. I said, it was everybody that was on that ship that was punished as well. And then you know what they did? That they said, hey, someone isn't right with God. And guess what? They threw him off the ship. Okay? All right? They threw him off. And so I said, I don't think you would want me on your team under those circumstances.
Wow.
And this is from, guess what? This is coming from 2011, a 28-year-old, like, young man, all right, talking to a head football coach, and there was an awkward silence over the phone for a little bit, and he said, well, I guess I have to respect your decision. Like, who's going to tell a head football coach that, right? But they went on that year, 2012, to win the Super Bowl. They went on that year to win the Super Bowl. Right. And years later, I went back to Coach Harbaugh, and you know what I told him? He was like, oh, Jason, it's good to see you. I said, hey, Coach, it worked out for you that you're not having me on your team, did it? He was like, he was like, you know what? Like, thank you so much. And yeah, man, but you know what? I have no regrets. I've had countless Super Bowl moments right here at First Fruits Farm. I've had countless Hall of Fame moments and victories right here at First Fruits Farm. So I'm still full of joy. I'm at peace.
That's awesome.
You are amazing.
I just have to say real quick that, first of all, I know your parents have got to be incredibly proud of you. I know that your brother is incredibly proud of you. And I just have, the thing that just kind of keeps hitting me over and over and over again is, and I'm sure I'm not telling you anything you don't know, but your kids could have had two very different pathways in life. Yeah. Being the kids of an NFL player living in a mansion making millions and millions of dollars versus what you're giving them now, no comparison. No comparison.
100.
I mean, it's just obvious, like you say over and over again, family is priority to you, and kudos to you for putting the money where your mouth is. I mean, it's incredible.
Jason, you're fantastic. I can't say anything more than that, and I can't thank you enough for the time that you spent, and for the thousands that you've impacted, generationally, man, generationally. So I hope that we can, if there's anything that we could do for you moving forward, please feel free to use us as a medium. It would be our pleasure. All right.
Thank you guys. I appreciate the opportunity. Thank you so much.
You bet, man.
Thanks.